Polymethyl methacrylate, or PMMA, also known as acrylic glass or plexiglass, as well as other trade names, is a transparent thermoplastic often used in sheet form as a lightweight or shatter-resistant alternative to glass. The same material can be used as a casting resin or in inks and coatings, among many other uses. Although not a silica-based glass, the substance, like many thermoplastics, is often technically classified as a type of glass, in that it is a non-crystalline vitreous substance, hence its occasional historical designation as acrylic glass. The material was developed in 1928 in several different laboratories by many chemists, such as William Chalmers, Otto Röhm, and Walter Bauer, and was first brought to market in 1933 by German Röhm and Haas AG and its partner and former U.S. affiliate Röhm and Haas Company under the trademark Plexiglass. PMMA is a strong, tough, and lightweight material and has a density which is less than half that of glass. It also has good impact strength, higher than both glass and polystyrene. However, PMMA's impact strength is still significantly lower than polycarbonate and some engineered polymers. It is often preferred because of its moderate properties, easy handling and processing, and low cost. In a non-modified form, PMMA behaves in a brittle manner when under load, especially under an impact force, and is more prone to scratching than conventional inorganic glass. But when modified, PMMA is sometimes able to achieve high scratch and impact resistance. Being transparent and durable, PMMA is a versatile material and has been used in a wide range of fields and applications, such as rear lights and instrument clusters for vehicles, appliances, and lenses for glasses. PMMA in the form of sheets can be used as shatter-resistant panels for building windows, skylights, bulletproof security barriers, signs and displays, bathtubs, LCD screens, furniture, and many other applications. Methacrylate polymers are used extensively in medical and dental applications, where purity and stability are critical to performance. As a transparent glass substitute, PMMA is commonly used for constructing residential and commercial aquariums, viewing ports, and even complete pressure hulls of submersibles, such as the Alicia submarine's viewing sphere and the window of the bathyscaphe Trieste. The lenses of exterior lights of automobiles are often made of this material, as well as spectator protection in hockey rinks, aircraft windows, the making of certain lighthouse lenses, hard contact lenses, and in orthopedic surgery, PMMA bone cement is used to affix implants and to remodel lost bone. Due to its biocompatibility, polymethyl methacrylate is a commonly used material in modern dentistry, particularly in the fabrication of dental prosthetics, artificial teeth, and orthodontic appliances. Modern furniture makers, especially in the 1960s and 70s, seeking to give their products a space-age aesthetic, incorporated lucite and other PMMA products into their designs. Many other products, like musical instruments for example, are sometimes made with acrylic glass to make the commonly opaque objects translucent. In the 1950s and 1960s, lucite was an extremely popular material for jewelry, with several companies specialized in creating high-quality pieces from this material. Lucite beads and ornaments are still sold by jewelry suppliers. Acrylic sheets are produced in dozens of standard colors, commonly sold using the color numbers developed by Röhm and Haas in the 1950s. CDs and DVDs are essentially thin reflective sheets sandwiched between thin sheets of acrylic and then stamped out into discs. All of these varied uses are but a few among a myriad of others and only scratches the surface of the uses for this remarkable material. But let's not forget that it was in times of war that the plastics industry truly came of age to become the backbone of the manufacturing industries that make the products we depend on so heavily today. Combs are one of our oldest tools, used by humans across cultures and ages for decoration, detangling, and delousing. They derive from the most fundamental human tool of all, the hand. And from the time that humans began using combs instead of their fingers, comb design has scarcely changed. For most of history, combs were made of almost any material humans had at hand, including bone, tortoiseshell, ivory, and anything else that was available. But in the late 19th century, that changed with the arrival of a totally new kind of material, celluloid, the first man-made plastic. Combs were among the first and most popular objects made of celluloid, and comb makers never went back. But the story of the humble comb is part of a much larger story of how we ourselves have been transformed by plastics. Plastics freed us from the confines of the natural world, from the material constraints and limited supplies of natural materials that had long bound human activity. In the post-World War II world, where lab-synthesized plastics have virtually defined a way of life, we've come to think of plastics as unnatural. Yet nature has been knitting polymers since the beginning of life. Every living organism contains these molecular daisy chains. The cellulose that makes up the cell walls in a plant is a polymer. So are the proteins that make up our muscles and our skin, and the long spiraling ladders that hold our genetic destiny, DNA. Whether a polymer is natural or synthetic, chances are its backbone is composed of carbon, a strong, stable atom that is ideally suited to forming molecular bonds. Other elements, typically oxygen, nitrogen, and hydrogen, frequently join that carbon spine, and the choice and arrangement of those atoms produces specific varieties of polymers. Bring chlorine into the molecular chain and you get polyvinyl chloride, otherwise known as vinyl. Tag on fluorine and you can wind up with that slick non-stick material known as Teflon. But most of today's plastics are made of hydrocarbon molecules, packets of carbon and hydrogen, derived from the refining of oil and natural gas. Consider ethylene, a gas released in the processing of both substances. It's a sociable molecule consisting of 4 hydrogen atoms and 2 carbon atoms, linked in the chemical equivalent of a double handshake. With a little chemical nudging, those carbon atoms release one bond, allowing each to reach out and grab the carbon on another ethylene molecule. Repeat the process thousands of times and you've got a new giant molecule, polyethylene, one of the most common and versatile plastics in use today. Depending on how it's processed, the plastic can be used to wrap a sandwich or tether an astronaut during a spacewalk. History shows us that a compound called urea was discovered and isolated in the urine of mammals in 1773. But it was not until 1828 that urea was synthetically produced and the foundation of phenol formaldehyde plastics was laid. In 1843, an acrylic acid preparation was reported, and in 1901, Dr. Otto Rahm published the results of his research with acrylic resinoids. By 1909, the first patent for phenol formaldehyde plastics was secured by Dr. Leo Baekeland. He found that phenol and formaldehyde, when combined, formed a resinous substance, a phenolic plastic, which he called bakelite. It could be softened with heat and then molded into shape and set into final form by continued heating under pressure while in the mold. It had so many uses and so many potential uses that it was called the material of 1,000 uses. Bakelite was water and solvent resistant, could be used as an electrical insulator, was rock hard but could be cut by a knife and was used in 78 RPM records and telephones. Baekeland's discovery triggered the creative imagination of organic chemists, and research began the world over, more intensely than ever before. Polymethyl macrolate was discovered in the early 1930s by British chemists Rowland Hill and John Crawford at Imperial Chemical Industries in the United Kingdom. ICI registered the product under the trademark Perspex. Acrylic resins were first prepared in the U.S. in 1931 for industrial coatings and laminated glass binders. 1932 saw the invention of yet another new plastic called neoprene. About the same time, chemist and industrialist Otto Röhm of Röhm and Haas AG in Germany attempted to produce safety glass by polymerizing methyl methacrylate between two layers of glass. The polymer separated from the glass as a clear plastic sheet, which Röhm gave the trademark name plexiglass in 1933. Both Perspex and plexiglass were commercialized in the late 1930s. In the United States, E.I. DuPont de Nemours and Company, now DuPont Company, subsequently introduced its own product under the trademark Lucite. In 1936, ICI Acrylics, now Lucite International, began the first commercially viable production of acrylic safety glass. One of the most famous wholly synthetic fibers was invented in 1938 at the cost of $10 million: nylon. In the first year of its creation, nylon went into toothbrush bristles and nylon stockings. 64 million pairs of stockings were made in 1938 alone. Nylon was also used by the military in World War II for gearing wheels in vehicles and parachute cords. When airplanes were first introduced, they were open cockpit, but soon enclosed cockpits were developed. The largest impediment to having closed cabins was the material the windows were to be made of. Prior to plexiglass becoming available in 1933, windows were either safety glass, which was heavy, or cellulose nitrate, which yellowed quickly and was extremely flammable. The first aircraft to have anything similar to the modern canopies were the Royal Aircraft Factory SE-4 and SE-5, which had canopies made up of celluloid, and were promptly removed by crews once these reached squadron service during World War I. It was during the Second World War that the plastics industry came of age. Copper, aluminum, steel, and zinc all became precious metals allocated for military use. Desperate fabricators who had never thought of plastic as a manufacturing material began to reconsider. During World War II, both Allied and Axis forces used acrylic glass for submarine periscopes and aircraft windshields, canopies, and gun turrets, and the iconic Bombardier's transparent nose compartment in the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress and other bombers in service. During the war, it was discovered that polymethyl methacrylate has good degree of compatibility with human tissue, and it is used in the manufacture of rigid intraocular lenses which are implanted in the eye when the original lens has been removed in the treatment of cataracts. This compatibility was discovered by the English ophthalmologist Sir Harold Ridley in World War II RAF pilots, whose eyes had been riddled with PMMA splinters coming from the side windows of their Spitfire fighters. The plastic scarcely caused any rejection compared to glass splinters coming from aircraft such as the Hawker Hurricane. Ridley had a lens manufactured by the Rainier Company, Brighton and Hove, East Sussex, made from Perspex, polymerized by ICI. On 29 November 1949 at St. Thomas's Hospital in London, Ridley implanted the first intraocular lens. Later, acrylic-type contact lenses proved useful for cataract surgery in patients that have recurrent ocular inflammation, uveitis, as acrylic material induces less inflammation. During World War II, the aircraft industry depended heavily on aluminum, and as a result, aluminum foil for wrapping food became scarce. This led to the development of plastic wrap, trademarked as Saran wrap, as a substitute for aluminum foil, and was even used for covering guns during shipping. With much of America's metal requisitioned for the war effort, manufacturers looked to plexiglass acrylic to fill the role. It is easy to see the impact that acrylic plastics and plexiglass have had in our modern lives. Most of us never think about or barely realize how widespread that impact has become. It is not too much of a stretch to say that plastic, in all its forms, has become one of the most fundamental materials for the building of our modern world. And it is equally easy to forget the wartime needs that drove its development, in the interests of protecting pilots and bomber crews in the skies over a war-torn world, as well as its other uses in the machinery of war. It was there that acrylic plastic and plexiglass proved its worth in the aircraft and the equipment in the very hands of those who fought, died, and survived the pain of progress.